Rah-rah moments. We used to throw out like candy and stuff. All right, guys. Um, Anyone on your computer or phone after this moment, if I see you or hear you, you will get an invoice for Cares for Kids. We appreciate the donation. It does go directly to the children. Just know that. Hey, our lunch sponsors here, guys. We always love to hear them. All right, you ready? On three. One, two, three. Great things are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. Anybody else want to take a crack at that? We'll just not go down that rabbit hole.
Yes, it kind of reminds me of another quote where it says, you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. More things can be accomplished by a group of people than by an individual. You have more strength. You have more eyes and more brains looking at a problem.
Hold on just for a second, guys. So when we're talking about that, what is that? How does that relate to real estate? How do we go further with a group of people in real estate versus individuals? Give me
Your peers and reviews of listings and asking questions on lead generation tactics.
That's right. That is really, really true, right? I find myself, what's the word? Discussing many of my issues or listings or whatever with Ken, like all the time. But it does help, right? Because sometimes we're like focused on someone else and we can't see what other people see, or we can't interpret the data the way that they may interpret the data, right? So it's just being open to other things. But how can the group help you go further? What does that look like? What does that look like for you individually? Anybody talk about it? You want to talk about it, Mr. Rick?
I guess I'm my spot now. When you look at an operation such as this, there are always situations where you don't know what you don't know. And one of the things I always look at is how you put together such a program where, I didn't think I was going to be interested in something, and lo and behold, I am.
Oh.
There's a lot of wisdom within the group, as we know.
So true.
And I would just say that find out what you don't know.
Oh, I love that. Find out what you don't know. Oh, goodness. I'm going to use that all week and next week. Find out what you don't know. Find out what you don't know. Love that.
Also, others will see strengths in you that you don't know you have and weaknesses in you that you don't know you have. And whether they set a bar higher than for you than you would set for yourself, or they ground you in the reality of your opportunity, you will always progress further with outside input.
That's huge, right? What I heard was stay open-minded, stay coachable, and then implement what you hear, right? It's tough. Those are tough. When I talk about growing pains or when I think about growth, I think about those things. I can always rely on Ken to really ground me. But it's important that we stay coachable, right? And that we stay humble in our thoughts. We can still have an ego. We can still have all these things and be proudful and all that stuff. But it's staying grounded within your own thoughts. I think that's tough. Billy, did you have something to say? I thought I saw your hand up. I thought it was.
Being in real estate is not like being in mortgage. Everybody's running their own business in a strange kind of way. And one of the things my dad told me all the time was, you've got a business by what happens when you stop working.
Yes.
You stop working and the business keeps going. You have those systems in place to where it runs. And even though we all start off as individuals, that should be a goal if you ever want to grow out. It is just going to take a team of people, working out systems, and maybe you start out with a transaction coordinator.
Yep.
That's all y'all's work. That's kind of tough.
I agree. That's one of my goals for my year for 26 was how does the engine keep running without me? How can I remove myself and things continue to happen? And yeah, it is hard, right? It is one of the biggest challenges that I'm having right now is how do you do that? And it takes that team and it takes a lot of cross training. Then it also takes having the right person in the right seat. That's tough. And those are tough conversations, right? But that has been a challenge for me. Anybody else have anything to say on this? Because this is big. Okay. This was huge. Find out what you don't know. Surround yourself with the people that need to be around you. That's huge. Our mission: to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. Anybody know that? Can you recite that?
I read it.
Give you a huge incentive if you can recite it. Anybody know it? This one, our mission. You got it? No? You got it? You think you got it? No? I think she's probably got it because she said it a million times. Anybody else want to give a whack at it? Give you some KW bucks right now. Nobody. All right, next team meeting. All right, go ahead.
Building careers worth having. I think the careers comes first. Yeah, there's careers worth having, businesses worth building, legacies worth leaving. I know I'm missing two more. Lives worth living, and then legacies worth living. Leaving. You're close.
Yeah.
You were super close. You were really close. You saw those dues. You saw that month of free dues just slide by you. Slide by you. Slide by. So it's a huge incentive. Guys, if you could implement this, do this with everything you have, put it on all of your listing presentations, your buyer presentations, walk with this, you'll never go wrong, right? Because this is the ultimate goal. All right, so practices of top agents. So when we're looking back at data, when I was looking back at data this month from when we closed out June, we're carrying over 200 listings right now in the brokerage. We have about $65 million worth of inventory. It's a huge number, right? Average sales price being about that 359 mark because we didn't have a lot of huge sales to skew the numbers like sometimes we do. So when we're looking at that, what I thought and what I talked to Ken about was we need to move these listings. So if you start to look at the calendar for next month, you're going to be able to see more listing classes, more CMA classes, and more role play, right? Because those are hard conversations for you to have with your sellers, and they give a lot of pushback when you start talking about their money, because it's not, now you're not telling them we listed at this price or we can list. We're saying, oh, we did list, but now what, right? Those are hard conversations. So as you're kind of like thinking about that, we put together practices of top agents. So knowing the local market, right? And its inventory. So knowing the counties that surround you. It's not easy. It's actually hard. Can you do it? Yeah. If someone like me at my age is trying to do it, then I know that you guys could do it. Prioritize and manage leads. You need to be able to categorize your leads, right? Not everything that comes to you is urgent. Follow a system. You need to know the buyers in the market. Who's buying what? What's the target? Then how are you identifying that? So if I asked you right now in your system, how do you know who's buying in this area? What would you tell? Where would you go to find it? Does anybody know? It's a conversation. We're going to talk.
George, I know it.
Possibly. Ken, where would you go?
Looking for buyers, there's no better way to get out in the market and interact with people. But if you don't know the specific buyers, you can at least categorize them by income and by what they're spending, what they're paying.
Yep.
And that'll give you an idea of where to look for the people that are actually buying.
So you could look in George and Lesson, your closed transactions, right? You could look at Q Public to see what's closed. You could look at different systems, different platforms out there. PropStream is a good one. FMLS has a really good one. You're gonna
about buyer profiles, empty nesters,
Mhm.
buyer, move up buyer. And a lot of that you can deduce that from the price points of what's selling.
Do you understand that? Like you can categorize the price points and look at the buyers, right? So yes, in MLS, was that the question? You can pull what's closed and see, You can go back and look. Yes, Q Public, you can look at what's closed. Yeah, and then go off of that data, if that makes sense. It's not easy. If I had to pull a list, I would probably let some AI help me and then kind of like put my eyes on it. Does that make sense? Because we're just trying to get a general idea of what the target is. But networking is always the biggest thing. Asking the questions in person. What are the decision facilitators? Kind of what we just talked about, right? Your target buyer. Master scripts. It's a big one. Do you know what to say when you get on the phone with someone or in person before you start stuttering? It's huge. Do you agree, Vicki?
Absolutely.
Hire a coach for accountability. Accountability is huge. That word scares us because we think this person's going to tell me what I should be doing, how I should be doing it, when I should be doing it. And they will, right? If you've agreed to those terms. Sometimes they're a therapist.
I'm very happy with accountability and my coaching relationship. The fact that I have the call every week holds me accountable to be ready for the call. So even in that level where I'm not going to give nobody $100 more money because I didn't make 12 calls today.
Yeah.
But I will make sure I'm prepared for that meeting and thinking of what I need to do to have that call is accountability to make sure I do what I'm supposed to be doing this week. So it doesn't have to be brutal.
It doesn't.
Time related.
Now, he made a comment about I'm not going to give someone $100 because I didn't make 12 calls. Nick Montgomery had a coach one time, and that coach, like if he didn't make so many phone calls or have so many appointments, he literally had to write a check to this woman in her name. And it was like $1,200. It was a lot of money, and send it to her. And if he didn't, she would get on a plane and come to him and make him do it in front of her. She had him scared to death. Like when he talks about it right now, he has PTSD. So he had to fire that coach and get with someone who he could relate to, right? He was like, this is not working. He did like 4 months of that and he was like, I'm done. But if you ever get around him, ask him to tell you the story and let him be drinking because it's better. You've got to know your numbers. You always hear me talk about a tracking system. I don't care if you're doing pest control or if you're doing mortgages or whatever you're doing. Princeton, we talk about this. What are your numbers? How many calls, conversations did you have? And what's the ROI? What was your return? Right? Because is it working? Or do you need to play like green light, red light? Is it not working? We need to stop. Right? Or are we spinning our wheels? Does that make sense? Use time efficiently and effectively. I had a very unproductive day yesterday. I was in kind of like a different mindset. So when I went home last night, I had to ask my question. When I get up in the morning, will I rehire myself?
Is almost directly tied to 7 and 2.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because these are
prioritizing managing your leaves, you will be very effective and efficient with your time.
because your number is going to go directly into your GCI.
It's going to also tell you what you need, what you're doing, and where your gaps are.
Yeah. What do you need to work on? So I had to reevaluate last night and say, would I rehire myself this morning? And then you know what I did? I gave myself grace. And I said, let's ask myself that again at 6 o'clock today. Right? I didn't have an answer. I said, I don't know. But that's okay. Right? I got through the day. Right? And at 6 o'clock today, I'll look at myself and say, was I productive? Does that make sense? Sometimes we got to give ourselves grace. Leverage technology. I find somebody for this. I fell through technology. Quentin. Embrace the KW6 personal perspectives, which is what Michelle was talking about earlier. Win-win. You know that game, Deal or No Deal? Yeah. Yes. So you actually did get a book because you know that. And now you know it. You wrote it down? I love that for you. So you'll be within culture every moment. So when you get on the other side of a transaction and that agent's not doing their job, remember to look at that tattoo. Remember and be like, I'm rolling the boat by myself on this one. It's okay. They're sitting in the back seat. And they do. And that's okay. If you need a copy of our vendors, please reach out to Princeton. He can forward that to you real quick. You're going to see who the vendors are that bring us lunch that we're in conversation with. They're vetted. And then who are the preferred vendors. Okay, these are the people that we really need to make sure that we're supporting. So when Pest USA comes in, they're doing something for us. So the win-win is that we reciprocate, right? And we give the business back to them. Does that sit well with you guys? That's my ask of you guys. Top close volume. I'm trying to move fast because Ken has a lot to say. Go ahead.
Can we get a copy of those forms? I think I have it like on the left where it's a bunch of different ones, but that one looks like more like a Rolodex, like I can quickly scan and see, you know.
Yep. Chris has got it. If you need it, see Princeton. Top close volumes. I was going to put the number up here this month because it's a big deal, but I decided not to. So the top close volume individuals is Tamika Nesby, Christy Phillips, and Tiffany Riffle. What I found when I asked them a couple of questions is that they said that in their numbers and their tracking, they're working 3 times harder than they were in March to get to the number. 3 times, no longer twice, 3 times. For July, I'm seeing that in my numbers. I'm touching 3 times harder than I was. Top close volume teams and groups, Stacy Brownlee, Crosspoint Property Solutions. That's Ken, by the way, guys. Barnes and Moore Real Estate Services, Cindy Lou Holmes, Nick Montgomery, and the Alliance Home and Land Group. Does everybody know what a capper is? Do you know what it means to cap? Everybody does? Great. Our cappers for this month is Tyler Moore, Bob Miller, Richard Jones, Chris Hewitt, Charles Hendricks, and Richard Branch. Huh? So I would agree with you. But when I call him Richard Jones, he says, my name is Jones. I would agree. But if I'm reading it, it's John's, right? Something to do with his Spaniard heritage. I don't know. Can't question it. It is what it is. So to each his own. On the other side, though, he actually has a nickname. If you see him at the lake, asking what his nickname is, and it's much easier than Richard Jones. All right, Team Pest USA is here. Are you guys ready? Come on up. I hope you guys always need to use pest control services.
All right. My name's Nathan. This is Cody Farmer, and he's our account manager. I'm the acting manager for the McDonough branch, which services you guys.
You're good for that. I'll pop out, bro.
Okay. Just real quick, we're new to you guys coming in. We started with you earlier in the year. He's been killing it out in the field selling for us. So I'm trying to get him in here to you guys to get acquainted for you guys because he's been doing a great job for us. Thing that we rolled out earlier this year, especially at our the in-town Keller Williams, which we're big with, is free pre-listing inspections. So you get a house that you're going to put on the market, that you're going to be the agent for, give us a call. We want to go out. We want to do the inspection for you. It's no charge. We'll go through it top to bottom to see if there's anything you need a rodent letter, you need a termite letter. It's got a crawl space if you need an encapsulation, vapor barrier, dehumidifier, whatever, to get that thing closed for you guys on it. We're pretty quick. We rolled out a new things just earlier this month, different forms for trying to get your quick turnaround for your termite letters. So it's a form we send you guys. It answers all. We simplified it. It just has a couple things. I just need the buyer, seller's information, buyer's information, and that's pretty much it. Then we send him out to do the proper inspection again, graph it all, and get everything ready for you guys on it. But that's about it. But we do pest control, wildlife, termite, encapsulate all the way up to encapsulations for crawl space. So this dingy thing.
Half a second and explain encapsulation for newer agents.
Sure. It's basically, it's the easiest way to say it. It's a total seal of the environment under the house. So if you've got the AC unit on there, if you look under there and it's all cobweb, dusty, dirt, all that air is being sucked in through the system. And a lot of times that little thin filter isn't going to do much for it. So we go out, we clean out all the debris, we put a 20 mil poly down, go all the way up the sides of the wall, wrap the pillars. We take a product called DSV to sanitize everything. We put a dehumidifier in, and then we have a pump set up to it and suck it out. We seal off the whole thing. It makes it a humidifier. You could lay down there, you need it's all clean. As long as someone doesn't go in there and cut the cut that barrier, it protects the home for years to go on it. Most homes, most crawl spaces will just have a 6 mil poly, which you can buy at Home Depot, covering up. Usually it's good for about 10 years or so before it starts crumbling. And then, and if it's tacked down, because a lot of companies don't even tack it down. You get the AC guy going in and has to do a repair, pulls out the, AC, has to replace the AC unit, drags it across it, gets it all underneath, and pulls all that stuff underneath it. So, but we'll go up and seal all the vents and stuff around the property too. And we do exclusion work too for rodents, so, and all that stuff. We can have that all done to the house to bring value to it. An encapsulation for, small to mid-sized house can be anywhere from 10 to 20 some $1,000s, but it'll add more value to the house. Just having that done, being able to open it up, look inside and just seeing a clear, a white thick poly underneath it with a dehumidifier, just sucking out any moisture, humidity under there. All right, you got anything?
That's about it. I mean, just call me, pretty quick.
I'll have him hand out some cards here to you guys and introduce himself to you guys. But yeah, just give him a call. I still get phone calls from the in-town realtors. Best thing to do is get us out there before, not call me. I got a house going. I need someone to do a letter today or tomorrow. I was like, well, let us do the pre-inspection. Let us get out there. Let us get to that. So all I have to do is if everything's good, is you call me and I can, do the letter up right then and there and not have to do that.
Question. Fairly new agent.
Yeah.
This letter, so you're saying like, I see some shavings underneath it. I'm not sure if it's termites. I will call you. You would be able to validate, oh, no, we don't have termites. And you'll give me a letter saying, as of this date, we did not find any termites.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing with the rodent letter. If you've had rodent, if you come and like, if you're, during the home inspection portion of it, they find rodent droppings or they find old termite tunnels that haven't been scraped away or, shavings or, debris damage, they're not going to say that it's live termite activity. Your home inspector is not going to do it. It's just, they're going to note the damage. They're going to note the droppings on it. Then they're going to say, you need to get someone out here to check it. And we'll come out and take a look to let you know if it's old damage, if it's active, and what you need to do to get it taken care of, if it is active on it.
At what point, when we get a listing, should we call you to,
Very beginning,
so the letter is only good for how many days?
30 days.
30 days. But the pre-inspection, if he goes out here, today to do a house for you, and in 15 days, you've got a buyer on the hook and you need a letter done, I've already done the inspection. I can just write the letter.
Yep.
So that's why getting us out early will help you in the long run,
Also, getting out there early on a listing, especially with older homes, people have dropped their termite coverage because they don't know better. And especially if you look at your seller's exposure and they say there's no termite coverage, get the pre-inspection because you don't want to list it for 3 months. Kill yourself marketing the home, get it under contract, and they drop it during due diligence because it's got active termites.
We see that pretty often. Yeah.
Get the inspection done early. So that when they come, it's disclosed that, yes, there was termites, but it's treated under a bond now. That takes it off the table because it's not unusual to have homes that had past termites. True?
Yeah. All the time.
Oh, we get it all the time. I get people that drop bond, and they call it back up and well, I need it. We were under contract with you. Well, you dropped it 6 months ago or last year, it's going to be a whole new thing. It's going to be a whole new amount for me to come out and put the stations back in the ground or do a liquid treatment around the outside of the house, depending on what you have activity. Yeah.
Listings that do not have active termite coverage, if they're offering a free inspection, you can get your seller to agree to that because it doesn't cost them anything. You need to do it, and then you can sell them on, look, they're here, this is the cost. Anyone that's gonna buy this home is gonna require it, so let's knock it out.
Yep.
Yeah. And for us, we get in front of the seller and, we'll ask them, are you buying a home in the area? Because, we'll try to sell them that. And then we'll try to sell our other services to your buyer, of the home. So for us, it's a win-win.
Yep.
So for him, it's just time on it. But I get him in front of him, he's going to sell it most of the time. So,
Yep.
All right. Y'all have anything?
Yep.
All right. Thank you, y'all, for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some business cards. If you want me to just leave them on the back table, front table, whatever, but just pass those out.
More importantly, you brought lunch.
Yes.
Yeah. The next question they're gonna say is, "What is it?" Is that? Are you thinking that? You made me nervous because you're looking at me too hard. I will say we're dealing with a couple right now that's going through a divorce, and in the divorce decree, the judge forgot to put termite coverage, like who's paying that bill, and they currently have a termite bill monthly, right? There's like a bond or something they've gotten, it's monthly. So guess what? The husband's not paying it, right? And the wife said, not paying it. My team has the listing. We no longer have termite protection. So now as we get offers, we've got to have that. So just know that while you're in the process of listing a house, well, we got to have something saying we don't have termites. Because our company that we had said, we're going to charge you to come back out to tell you that we don't, because she dropped the coverage. So although she's been paying this for 5 years, they won't give her a courtesy letter. She dropped it 2 months ago. Yeah. Not a lot of courtesy there. Yep. So just know that happens, and you got to stay on your sellers, because although they had it in the beginning of the transaction, by the end, they may not have it. And a good agent, when they send an offer, is going to say all parties agree, seller to give a clear termite letter. Right? All right, guys. We've got lead gen every morning from 9 to 10. PC they're on these calls. You guys are on these calls. They're kicking butt on there. I think PC right now has 6 transactions going on, which is crazy with 20 people. Yeah. Appointment to contract workshop with Quentin. I'm going to give out some incentives to make some people show up to this. So be checking your email. Be checking your email to see what I can do to help Quentin out on this class right here. Because right. Well, stop it on purpose. On purpose. Love that for you. See y'all Sunday. Quentin did something to me this morning, y'all, so it's fine. All right, introduction to Lone Wolf. This is very elementary. It's going to be today at 1 o'clock from 1 to 2. We're going to go over the basics of Lone Wolf and answer any questions. It's not step 2, not step 3. This is step 1 of Lone Wolf, okay? So this will get you from logging in to signing, okay? Yeah, logging in to signing, okay? Mastermind class Saturday, July 25th, 10 a.m. I am going to talk about data, numbers, give real analytics. If anybody wants to show up from dual career, it's 10 a.m. this coming Saturday. Who was that? Love that, Mr. Powell. Love that for you. Cares for Kids says thank you. GAR purchase and sale agreement and commonly used forms. They're going to be in person this Thursday, July 30th, 10 to 1. No, this is not our in person. This is online Google Meet. Yep. So this was online GAR purchase with GAR. Trying to get GAR more involved. I'm working on getting them out here to teach a class in person. So just knowing the why behind NAR and GAR is important, because you guys pay those dues. So you need to be a little more involved to know what's going on. Mid-year changes just happened, and if you weren't on that call, you should have been. There are major changes in that contract. And 27 is like a book. So just be ready for that. And you guys can go to those meetings if you want. You just have to be approved. Connect MLS, this is it. 3-hour CE training. This is in person, July 28th, 10 to 1. So if you're using Connect for CMAs, for numbers, for listings, for whatever you're doing, you need to be here for this. Okay? Please sign up. If you don't sign up, I know that we'll have 10 to 20 show up, but the problem is they want the record. So if I don't have the RSVPs, they'll cancel. Okay.
Everybody that's not, everybody needs to be at that MLS.
Yes, you need to know how to use MLS. Okay. All right. Numbers behind your business with Ken Harper. This actually took a lot of time yesterday, so please pay attention. Let me give this to him.
Let me get myself ready.
Sunday.
Awesome. So, okay, just a quick show of hands. How many of you guys at some point has felt it uncomfortable to think about talking to me, or think I'm scary, or don't want to bother me, or seriously, how many? Okay. I've heard that over the years. I'm like, I'm a nice guy. I don't understand. Like, I mean, anybody can talk to me, man. I'm actually trying to be very helpful. And then this past week, because 2 weeks ago, I taught in the team meeting class. I went over CMAs, and I'm like, oh, I got the email like, hey, if you weren't here, you can check the recording. I'm like, hey, let's check the record. I'm mean, man. I did not realize that I sound like an angry old white dude teaching class. So today we're going to be nice Grandpa Ken. How about that? Awesome. Well, we'll see how it goes. If y'all fall asleep, I'm going back to yelling at you. So just be ready. It might be. It's very impossible we have. So again, if I see anybody sleeping, I'm going to start yelling at y'all. So just be ready. All right. Ken, that's me. All right. We are back to stats. I got pushed back in the spring when I didn't give you guys this form. So let's give you the form. Everybody seen this form? Who's not seen this form? Okay. I will give you a 2-minute overview of what the form is. Basically, I go into the MLS and I check all of the sales for the month so we know what's going on. And so in January, at the end, we had 57 sales. And that tells you how many sales we have, but it doesn't really tell you the nature of what the sales are. And so I break it down by price range. You will notice, if you've seen these before, that this looks very different because I bowed to the reality of our market and I lowered the categories to start at 250 instead of 300. Okay. I did that because so many of our sales are below 250. How many of you guys, if you didn't come to these things, would think that 30% of the sales, or almost a third of the sales, are below 250 in Rockdale? What does the news tell you about the affordability? Can't afford a house, can't afford a house. 1 out of every 3 sales in Rockdale County is below 250. Now, it doesn't mean you want to live in that house, but they do sell. Okay. And so if you look in this area here, the numbers here don't really mean a whole lot. This is a typo. I don't know why it says 0, but that's okay. We'll get to it. This is the market share of sales below that number. Okay. So if I say 143 of the 425 sales are below 250, that represents 32% market share are below 250. But that means that when you get up to 300, 51% of the sales are below 300. How many of y'all would have thought that half the sales are below 300? Half the sales in the county are below 300. And you're like, well, okay, well, that's a lot, but there's still half left. So let's go up the chain a little bit. When I get to 375, 74% of all sales are below 375. Does anyone care to tell me what the median or the average price in Newton County is? It's been running, of Rockdale. It's been running anywhere from 375 to 400, somewhere in there, right? They keep saying, oh, it's this. And so it makes everybody believe that half the sales are above that number. That is not correct. The median will tell you what the price is. But right now, our median sales price is 300. Okay? That interest rate affecting affordability is a real thing. But what that means is that when I get up to here, what I did different, see this gray bar? Everything below the gray bar are in $25,000 brackets. Okay. So from 250 to 275, we had 38 sales in 6 months. That's 6 sales a month in that price range. And then there's 46 and 36 and 44 and 24 and 29. But then I got to go from 400 to 450. I have to go twice as big of a bracket to keep that same 27. Okay. And then this one here, 450 to 500, that's 7, 18, 24. 24, that's a typo, right? So it's 24. That's still only 4 sales a month between 450 and 500. But it's also, we're at almost 90% of the market is below 500, right? So when we pull in a listing, and so like in the CMA class, that came up because they're like, well, we're listed at 610. Okay, what does that mean? That means that out of the 425 buyers, only 40 buyers in 6 months could even afford you. When you're thinking in terms of a listing appointment, you have to wrap that reality around your client. I did something crazy here because I'm capping out at 600,000. This number of 12, that's from 600 to a million. 12 sales. That's it. That's 2 a month from 600 and above. You see what I'm saying? Everybody's like, oh, wow, that's, some of you guys are saying, I don't know, 600,000, it doesn't matter. But there are a lot of them in Rockdale County, and they're not selling. And we know they're not selling because months of supply is 9.3. Now, this number is pretty low here, but you see how this number is higher? Anytime you see a green number above a red number, what that's telling you is that when we got to the end of June, the people that didn't sell above 550, they're like, well, let's get it below 550. And all of a sudden you have this weird number where there's a bunch of extra listings that are coming down in price. Does that make sense? Now, overall, it's a fairly balanced market until you get up to about 450, 500, and then there's just no buyers. And so things are sitting. But if it's a good home, it will sell. I had a resale in my new construction neighborhood. It's 2 years old. It has a primary bedroom on the first floor and a primary bedroom on the second floor. It's 4,100 square foot luxury home. We had it listed at $935 and it took 5 months, but we got a full price offer after 5 months. We were priced right. There was just only 3 people that could afford that house. Yes, ma'am. Question. Vicky has a question. Hey, ask Grandpa Ken anything. What you got? That's fine. Yeah, she won't let you do that. Sure, that's a good idea. So up here, the green, yellow, and red is just for me to be able to clearly identify quickly where those breakpoints are. 50% market share, 74% market share, roughly 90%, because this should actually be like 89, 88, 89. It's almost 90. These numbers are different. Months of supply, if it's below 5 months of supply, what does that mean? Someone give me a good definition of months of supply that's not my daughter, including my daughter. Hold on, start over.
If no houses came on the market, how long would it take the inventory to?
Yeah.
Perfect definition. Everybody give that is a textbook definition. If I'm selling 6 homes a month and there's 36 for sale and nothing new comes on, it's going to take me 6 months to sell 36 homes, right? Perfect definition. That we use that as a metric because we know historically that anything below 5 months of supply favors sellers. So it is true that there's tight inventory all the way up to 350, but that's because it's moving, right? It's competitive, but it's moving. When you get, yeah.
So I know you just mentioned that you had a house sit for 5 months.
Yeah.
And you sold it for the price. So you didn't adjust. So even though you went above the month inventory,
But I didn't go above the month's inventory because it's 10 months of supply.
oh,
It was 950. We had it listed 950. We dropped it to 935 within a month and sat there for 4 months. And someone said, this house is perfect. And I'm like, you're right, pay for it. And they're like, okay. It works.
300,000 Callum.
Yeah.
For 5 months, you definitely reduce because it should have.
Something's wrong. Yeah. Okay. Yes. If it's a seller's market and you're not getting showings, you either are ugly, like a bad condition, or overpriced. Because it's not the market, it's you, right? It's your house. So that kind of gives you some guideline and helps you to have a more, it doesn't matter as much in the green because typically if you got, everybody knows it should be selling. If it ain't selling, you know it's high. But when you get into the reds, a lot of times you have to explain their situation to a seller or else they think it's your fault it hasn't sold. Did you have your conversation with that person? Okay, perfect. We had that conversation with her because she's like, it's been a while sitting. And I'm like, I don't think you're overpriced. There's just 3 buyers in the world that can afford your house. And she's like, I'm like, make that clear that his options are you're priced exactly to the value, which means you got to wait for the right person to find you because there's only 3 of them, or you have to go where there's 13 people where they can afford it and show them ridiculously better value. Because that's a real strategy, right? Buy it for what it's worth, or I'll sell it to you as a deal. And people will pick a house that they don't necessarily need if they get the right deal, right? Like if I gave you a Lexus, would you take the Lexus? Yeah, I can't afford the, I don't say that. Shannon can't afford the service on a Lexus, but she'll take one. The value, right? It's the value. Okay, everybody understand the form? Any questions about what we see in Rockdale? Cool, because we're gonna flip quick. Newton is almost identical. Okay, it's a little more hairy when you get into this area because there's a lot more inventory and a lot less buyers. If you notice, it says 595 total units. That's Newton is always a bigger market. It's just got more houses in it, so it's going to have more numbers. And the number of active homes at 434 is an okay number because you're at 4.5. But this number used to be 1.9 3 years ago. You couldn't buy a house. You'd have to catch one before it listed. You'd have to bid over full and no inspection, all the nonsense, right? Well, now we're getting more into closer to a true balanced market because the interest rate pressure is keeping the buyer pool constant, and we're already at a super low level of sales. And if the buyer pool doesn't grow, the sellers are eventually going to have to start selling because what's my favorite phrase about sellers? Life happens, divorce, death in the family, job move. They don't have a choice. And as they have to sellers get forced into the market eventually, buyers choose to get in the market. Does that make sense? If you don't have a house, you can rent. But if you got to sell, if things happen, you have to sell. And so the longer we stay in this miasma of uncertainty, we are transitioning into a seller's market over time. And that reflects itself. A buyer's market. Sorry. That's reflected. This used to be maybe some red up here, and now we're starting to go red all the way down. Okay. Only the most affordable homes still move. Yes.
So can you real quick, because I'm noticing something between 375 and 500.
Yeah.
On either side of 4 to 450, it's a pretty significant months of supply.
Yeah. Yes. I can. So first of all, the below 400 is an inflection point for buyers. Would we agree? How do we know that? Because we go from like that 68 or 58 sales versus 41 down to 16, down to 12. That's the affordability cliff right there. And so what you've seen here is people are listing here because they started off up here. Like you've got one right now that needs to be 425 and they are at 500. Like there's a whole lot of sellers that are just clueless, and a whole lot of agents that are clueless too. And I say that in love because it's Grandpa Ken, not Mean Ken. But they are clueless about what this is telling them and what the market's doing. At almost every price point, if I go back 6 months, can I find 3 comps that will tell me what price I want to list that house for? Because there's always someone that the square footage is the same and the age is the same. And let's forget the fact that they just remodeled the whole entire house and mine hadn't been updated in 38 years, but I can make the number say it's the same. But if there's only 3 sales, but there's 38 homes for sale, doesn't matter if it's the same. They had the lightning strike. You probably will not, right? We all learned that when we had the foreclosure crisis, right? We saw all that. But when you see this kind of a big cliff, there's a couple things here. This doesn't surprise me because it's a major break point at 400. You've got a lot of people that are sitting on the market, and they're like, man, the agents are like, if you can just get it under 400, it'll be good. And all of a sudden you get 17 homes that come down under 400 at July 1st because they want to sell, and you get a weird number, and that'll filter itself out. Okay. The 4.3 is a combination of, you've still got movement here. There's 41 sales. That's almost that's almost 7 a month. That's a decent little market pop. And if you've sold a bunch of stuff and there's not enough new inventory and that's moving, then what you actually will see here is everybody above 500 is flooding down below 500, and there's still no sales. And so you're seeing the benefit of this, of people migrating down. The listings went down and the sales are still strong. So this number, probably if I would have checked that in May, that probably would have been above 5 or even 6. But because you sold a few and no new ones come on and a bunch of them migrate down, it looks better. This one, when you see a green and then you see a big yellow or a big red and the yellow above it, that's the top of the market. That's the top of the market, because nothing was selling here at 6.6 months of supply. And if I've only got 11, if I've only got 20, or I've only got 16 sales, which is 3 a month, and I get 6 new people that come in, that's 2 months extra of supply that popped into here, right? And I was at 12, now I'm at 16. It's not looking good. But I mean, you're at 26 listings. I mean, that's the death zone right now. And here's how that will solve itself. It will not stay that high. Prices will migrate down, listings will withdraw or expire, or rates will change and buyers will come back. What do we think is most likely to happen? They will expire. Okay. So overall, it's similar, but there's just more dynamic there because it's a bigger county and you got more people that are trying to sell. And that will adversely, here's the thing to understand over time. The more that this builds up, the more it's going to affect this. The more this builds up, the more they flow this way, and you'll start to see these reds start to populate further and further down. Right? If we don't pick up the buyer pool, but we keep adding supply, what's going to happen to the months of supply? It's going to go up. All right, I've used up 20 minutes talking about 5 minutes worth of stuff. So, yeah.
I think it's important for us to understand this, especially if you're producing right now. When we, the producing agents, go to our vendors and we're like, hey guys, can you help? Can you buy leads? Can you do this? Can you whatever? You have to understand where they're at too. Because the homes are moving. Sometimes they're not making money and sometimes they're losing so slow that it still feels like they're winning. But when you break down these numbers and say, well, how many did you actually sell compared to 4 years ago? It should be an easy solution in your mind to say, maybe they can't give me all what I'm asking for. What's the win-win for the two sides? Does that make sense? Because are you guys feeling a little bit of like heat on your end with like movement as far as homes and stuff?
A little bit, but it's, I mean, the market I know is.
Can I ask you a question to answer your question? How many presentations like this are you doing a week? How many are you trying to do? More and more and more.
And then try to get into ones that we dropped over them. Like I'd love to get back into Peachtree City.
Yeah.
You know.
But my point is you're doing your lead gen more and more, trying to get more business as it declines. That's the answer for vendors. That's the answers for you. It just is. Yeah.
So question, if I'm door knocking in Newton and I'm trying to gain you some sales, it looks like I should target more of my 300K. I want to get 1 million.
Yeah.
But I know that my chances are better at selling more of the 300.
How about if I answer that with the 20 minutes of training I'm supposed to be giving you? Awesome. All right. This is the market summary. The only reason I'm showing you this stuff is to show you that the actual numbers are not changing in terms of, like, there's not a lot of movement in terms of overall number of closings. It's a pretty stable market at a very low floor. Okay. And that's what we're seeing nationally. We've been at 4.1 million total transactions in the US for the last 3 consecutive years, which is historically low. That's like 2008 level of number of sales, which is super crazy low, historic low. When you went to family reunion, they said it's going to go up to 4.3 because they were anticipating a rate cut in the fourth quarter and stronger sales in the fourth quarter. Rates are not going to be cut. We're in a war. We're still in chaos. They're estimating it's going to be 3.8, 3.9. It's actually going to go down, not up. Now, will you feel that? No. It's going to feel like it feels right now. So with that being the case, your situation will not change. So what does that mean that we have to do? Your actions have to change. So let's talk about that. How many of you guys are familiar with this book? How many of you guys are familiar with the economic model? Let me help you by showing you a little image of the economic model. It looks something similar to this in the book, where you want to make so much money, and that means you need to make this much revenue, which means you need to have this many closings, which are this many under contract. And that's what this is in reverse, okay? So if you start with your profit number, your profit number the model is 40% of your revenue should be profit, because you should have a 30% cost of sale and 30% expenses. Now that's a big team. We're going to show you an example for a smaller individual person, but that number, if you take 40%, then that can tell you what your GCI needs to be, how much commission you need to earn, right? And if I know how much commission I need to earn, and I know what my average sales price and average commission rate is, then I know how many units I need to close. We all know how to do this backwards, right? What's the number everybody wants to say they want to make? Somebody tell me. 100 grand. Well, you know that if you do 100 grand and your expenses are this much, that you need to make this much in commission. And if your average sales price, you can get to the number of closed units. And if you know that a certain percentage, 90% of your homes that go under contract close, and there's always 1 out of 10 or so that'll fall out, then you know how many homes need to go under contract. And if you know how many of your listings that you take or buyers that you work with go under contract, and let's say it's 60%, then you know how many agreements you need to take, how many buyer brokerage agreements and how many listing agreements, right? You see how I'm working backwards to a number? If you look at this chain, it ends up with number of people that you know and number of conversations you have to hold. Does that make sense? Okay. The left column are the metrics. What I've added to this form is the right column, which is what are the activities that can impact the metrics. Okay, let's start at the bottom. Profit of 40%. If you took real estate classes that told you how to organize your business and what expenses you should have versus the frivolous things, right? Then it can help you to make sure that your profit number stays where it needs to be. If you need to know what your average price per commission is so that your GCI and your closed homes are in balance, this is where you're talking about client avatar. Who should I be targeting? Right? So if you say I need to work with $300,000 customers and I'm going to make 3% per person, that means I'm going to make $9,000. And if I'm going to make 50% profit, let's just use that number because it's easy. That means I'm going to make $4,500 per sale, and I need to make $100,000. So I need to sell 22 homes. See how that worked in reverse? And we're going to go over that example. The conversion between under contract and close is almost 100% related to your systems, right? You cannot head off every problem, but you can avoid massive problems if you understand the process and anticipate challenges. But that's skill, that's training, right? We agree? So how do I convert more of my agreements that I take to actually get them under contract? That's standard operating procedures for your listings, and standard operating procedures for how you work with buyers. How many of you guys have ever taken a buyer agreement and you showed them 5 houses on the weekend, and then the next weekend you showed them 3 more, and then you didn't call them for a couple of weeks, and you found out they bought something somewhere else and didn't use you, and now you're mad and you got to go fight them for your money? It's because you didn't have a system to contact them regularly to make sure you didn't put them on a drip plan and see what they're looking at and ask them about what they're seeing and following up. If you do that consistently and stay in touch with them, then they almost every time they'll stick with you until they find something. Same with listings. If I take a listing and they're not having showings and I'm not sending the email telling them what's going on, they're like, that guy just dropped me and never did anything. He didn't do anything anyway. You have to show your work to people, right? All right, how about agreements, from agreements taken to appointments held? I hold a bunch of appointments, but I can't get them to sign with me. That is presentation skills practice. I've got these for everybody. Oh, you've got them. Oh, she's passing them out. Great. Appointments. How do you get appointments? Making your calls. That's 100% script and role play. 100%. 100%. Conversations, minimum 4 times a year, you're supposed to physically be talking to these people if they're in your database. Yes, is that not the plan? That's the plan. That's all part of a 36 touch plan. Okay. So let's take an example of one of these things and put some numbers to it. Y'all have got this form. We're going to go over that again at the end, but let's look at this real quick. I want to make $100,000. Now, if I'm a solo agent, I do not have a 40% cost of sale. Hopefully, all I have for cost of sale is the $18,000 for my cap and royalty, because I cap when I hit 50 grand and the rest of it belongs to me. So my cost of sale, I'm going to put at 20%, because there's also FMLS fees in there, right? You got to pay for those. So 20% cost of sale. So if you need to make 100 grand, you're going to pay 20 grand to somebody for stuff. And then your expenses, that's everything from your car, all the things we write off. Let's just say that it's a 40% total expense level, right? That means you need to make 167,000 in commissions to net $100,000. Does that make sense? Now I'm going to average 350. I'm on board with you, man. Let's go where the money is. Let's go where the people are, right? 350 times 3% commission. If I take that 167 and divide it by that total, I think it's like 10.2 or 9,800 or whatever, it's 16 closings. So I know from math that if I want to make 100 grand and I do everything at the bottom of this right, I've got my real estate business set up the way it's supposed to be. I have my client avatar and I'm going after that buyer, that if I close 16, I'm going to hit my number. That's empowering. Would you agree? But how do I get to 16? Well, I want to have a 90% conversion rate on under contracts, which means I need to put 18 under contract. And that should be the goal. Okay. I want to convert 75% of my buyers. I'm not content with only 6 out of 10 people that I sign up closing. I'm just not. I want 75% of my buyers to close. I want 75% of my listings to sell. So that means I need 24 total agreements. How many a month is that? 2. How many agreements do you have to have in 2 weeks? That's an agreement every 2 weeks. 80 hours of your productive time with lead gen. It seems like it's reasonable, yes? Okay, cool. So I want 75% of my presentations, my appointments, to turn into these 24 agreements. That means I need to hold 40 appointments. How many appointments is that a week? It's 1. Can you hold half an appointment? So the goal should be 1. Okay. Well, how do I do that? Well, this is a nice little math thing. It's the number of people in your database to the number of transactions you should hold. In the MREA, it says 12 to 2, because it assumes for every list that you're going to focus on listings, and for every listing, you'll generate a buyer from the activities of listing. That's very difficult to do in a suburban setting. It just is. So I say 12 people in your database for every possible sale. How often do people sell a home in the US? It's 8 to 10 now. It's up to 8 to 10. That means that if you do perfect script and role play, and you do perfect communication, and you get everybody of the people in your database 12 to 1, then you only need 192 people in that database. Or you need 192 people in that database to either close or refer someone to you. Yeah? Perfect. So 192 people. That's reasonable. But you've got to communicate with them 4 times. So how many phone calls is that? Not dials, conversations. 768. How many conversations are you supposed to have if you're lead genning every week? Somebody tell me how many conversations you think you're supposed to have. 50. Anybody else got a number? What's the, like, per week, how many conversations are you supposed to have a day? 20, 25, right? What does bold say? When you're in bold, what's the goal? 100 a week. Divide by 5 is 20. Someone with great math skills or a computer, divide 768 by 50 weeks. If we're poor folk, we're only taking 2 weeks off. How many conversations is that per week? Somebody's got to pick up a computer. How many of that is a day? 4 to 5, 3 to 4. I want y'all to think about that. If you did everything else right and you have good skills and you're a competent agent from top to bottom, and you make 3 to 4 calls a day into your database of 200 people, will you net $100,000? How many of you guys have 192 people in your database and are not making $100,000? Do not raise your hand. That means that somewhere over here, there is a gap in your numbers. And the point of this key indicator is the indicator is not just a benchmark to shoot for, it shows you where your deficiency is in your craft. Right? Perfect. Does this make sense? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your business and I want you to say, this is my goal and this is where I'm at. Where is my gap? Is my gap in the conversion? Is my gap I didn't get here? Well, if I didn't get here, then there's something up here above here. That's the problem. So is it I didn't put enough under contract, or I had too many fall out, or I didn't get enough agreements, or I don't have enough appointments? And I will tell you, almost every single real estate agent in the world, it's going to boil down to you're not having enough in your database and you're not communicating with them often enough. But I have seen people that grind like crazy, but they don't practice their skills, and they call and call and call and call and call, and nobody wants to work with them because they've not mastered how to communicate to get agreements with people. Does that make sense? All right, I'm going to take 2 minutes and show you me because I'm over. This is me. Now let's do it. I want to make $1 million. I've not made $1 million every year in my career, but I have made $1 million multiple times in my career in a year in terms of commission income. And I have hit profits over that amount multiple times. So how do I do it? Well, first of all, I raised my client avatar. It's average sales price of $750. That gives you a lot fewer deals, right? So I only really have to close about 45 homes with the avatar that I have to be in the range of that number. And then my under contract 90% conversion is fine. My conversion on my agreements is higher than that. It just is. Conversion on appointments held at 75%. That's assuming we're talking about a buyer presentation or a listing presentation to gain a client. In our business, I have 1 to 2 builders that supply me multiple listings a year because I have gone 100% into that realm for multiple years. And so in mine, I don't measure that as an appointment. How many buyer presentations do we do on behalf of the builders to get them to buy a home? And on average, if we have inventory, Rick can help me with this. If we have inventory, we have things to show people. If I can show 10 people that have seen it and want to meet us in person, okay? Because they'll drive through and call, hey, you got information? We'll send them a virtual tour. If we can get them to that point and they're like, I want to meet, our conversion rate on that is out of 10 people is anywhere from 2 to 3 minimum. Okay. So if I want to do 45, I take 45 times 6, and that's around 250. If I can do 250 client appointments a year, I'll hit $1 million. But I get it to a level where I know exactly what my key metric is. And if I don't have listings and I don't have showings, then I'm not going to get the money. Does that make sense? In your business, you set it up the same way. For the average agent, it's all about make my database bigger. I will give you this thing. I want you to write this on your sheet. Your starting place, if you're not being productive at the moment, is to add 5 new people to your database every week. Figure out a way to meet a new person every day that you work. If you can do that, and then you get skills on how to set up a 36 touch plan, and then you do your script and role play and make your calls, you will see production within 90 days, guaranteed. Any questions?
What I see, with a lot of the agencies, they already have the people in the database. They're just not working.
Right. Well, I mean, the nice thing about this is that the activities match up to the metrics. So if you have the database number you need, but you're not setting appointments, then that means that you're not making the calls or you're not effective in the calls. You know if you're making the calls, right? The data tells you if you're effective in the call. Because if you've called 35 people this week and you don't get anything, that doesn't necessarily mean something. But if you call 35 people every week for 2 months and you don't have an appointment, there's something wrong with your script, right? And it could be that you're Shannon and everyone she knows is a Gen Z with not enough money to afford a house. You could be that person. Then her script should be more around, Who do you know that's buying a home? Who do you know that's selling a home? Who do you know are your parents? You know what I mean? Like you use the relationship to work your way wider so that you're not such a narrow focus of your database that it's just your friends. You have to be able to expand that. And a lot of times that's the script that you use. Does that make sense? Any questions? Was I kind enough today? Yeah. All right. Saw you.
Well, that's it. We're done because that was enough.
Okay.
So okay. Does anybody have any real questions now that Ken's sitting down for me? Because you're going to follow me to my office and ask me questions. So do you actually have any questions about this? This is a 401 on drugs. This is what your business plan should look like. If anyone in this room can stand up and tell me their numbers right now, I'll give you an incentive. Right. I know my numbers. I pour into my team to make sure they know their numbers, to know their goal to the T. I know my numbers down to conversions. Now, are they always skewed? Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you in July, I've told Ken this, we're working 3-to-1. So what we did last month is not what we're doing this month. I can see it. Something has shifted, whether it's my database, my script, or something changed, but we're 3-to-1 versus where we were at 2-to-1 last month, but I can see it. Hopefully in August and September, we'll go back to that 2-to-1. So we're making 2 calls, right, instead of the 3. But right now we're not seeing it. Does anybody else have any questions? So how many phone calls you're going to make or conversations about real estate, 2-minute conversations about real estate and nothing else counts. If you talk about the dog, doesn't count. Next week, that should be your question. Where's your next listing coming from and how many conversations can I have with new people?
And just so everybody's very clear, it doesn't mean that if you have 12 conversations, you're going to sell. It means that if you have 4 conversations with your entire database over the length of the year consistently with the other touches, you will get business that shall result in this. So it's the long play, not the short timeline. You've got to have consistent. I would rather see someone make, 10 calls a week consistently for 3 months than to make 100 calls in a weekend.
Yeah.
Because 100 calls a weekend is only going to catch the maybe one person that's thinking about selling right now. But if you're consistently calling and sending your email and sending your text and doing the plan, then that same 100 people will see you multiple times each week. So when they do make the decision, they pick up the phone and call you, not you just happen to get lucky on the day they're thinking about it. That's the key.
Guys, you have to commit to something, whatever it's going to be. And I'll tell you that over and over and over. What's your niche? What's your pond? If you don't commit to something, you're not going to see the business pan out. You're going to get the easy one here and there where it just drops in your lap. You are like one, but it's not going to sustain a business. It's not.
First off, I input my entire telephone. And I've got people who moved and no longer working at this job. And my plan is to one day chase these people down and get their correct email and correct phone number. But I'm finding that I'm filling up my database with people I'm talking, new people are coming in, and I've got this batch of stale people that I'm not following up on. At what point do you archive those folks?
So let's start over. What's your goal every day?
My goal every day is to get at least, 10 people in my database, my CRM.
To add to your database. Then you need to plan on how you're touching the back end. So if you're adding, you're not touching through leverage, you're in trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
These stale people are not in your database. They're in a spreadsheet somewhere.
Well, they're also my mind because I know them.
I know, but that's my point. Treat that phone call as your introduction to that person so that it counts as one of the 10 new people because you've re-upping a relationship you past had is worth infinitely more than a new relationship you're going to make with someone. That's number one. Recalculate how you think about that communication. It's not something to get to. It's better than a new person. So it takes priority over a new person.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Second thing, if you're not doing your lead gen in the AM and preferably starting at 9 AM If you're not doing it at least by then, your day will get away from you every single day
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
before you get busy, because the minute you decide to get busy, you will be what?
Busy.
And you won't have time to get to things. So this becomes a priority. It goes first.
But I've got so many questions around that. Like, why is it not in your database? Why are you not touching? Why are you not doing DTD2? You don't have to answer those. Those are just questions I would ask in a business meeting to get to the solution. But if your goal is to add to your database and not to capture an appointment, we need to talk about that. Right? Yeah, because you have to add, but then I would say how many people are in your database, right, that you can go ahead and touch in order to capture that appointment to do the conversion, right? You have to add, but you can prioritize.
With the database today and add 2 people today.
Mhm.
I thought the one.
What's your goal, Michelle, every day when you're lead genning?
How many to talk to?
Mhm.
At least 5 to 7.
5 to 7 conversations per day. Experienced top producing agent, 5 to 7 conversations per day. So when you guys walk up to her and you ask her, because I've heard this, how are you doing the business? How are you getting it? Well, because she's putting the time in. You don't see what goes into it.
To get to that 100 grand, it's 5 or 6 a day. It's 18 to 20 a week. That's it.
And a transparent moment for my vendors. Love you dearly. Guess what you guys have to do? You have to do the same thing we're doing to your clientele to make sure that you guys are reaping the benefits from us. Because I'm going to tell you in this market what I hear day in, day out. My vendors don't call me. My vendors don't touch me. They only want me to give them business. Am I lying? So from me to you guys, it helps when we get a phone call or a text and say, hey, how are you doing? Just checking in. I'm like, oh, can we give that contract to Team Pest USA real quick? Because it helps, right? It helps to be touched. So transparent moment.
Premise of one phone call communication a quarter and one text a quarter. That's a pretty good model for anybody to be able to discuss. I mean,
Yeah.
we use you guys all the time, or we need you when we need you, but it's more often than once every 7 years.
Yes.
And we're talking to people once a quarter that are gonna do one piece of business with us in 8 years. So it's not a bad model.
It's not a bad model. Yeah. So priorities, business plan, and then implement to get to the goal, right? Any questions? This is what a business meeting looks like around numbers, guys. There's not a lot of rah-rah. All right, lunch is in the hallway. Yay! Let's send you a bill.
You said sound.
And I'm joking.
Oh.
What the fuck's wrong with you and Quentin today? Oh, I got you. I got your number. I got you.
Long way.
You know what he told me? Basically, what he said to me earlier was, I want to watch you flounder.
What that mean?
Sure did say
They'll swim around.
You know how
I want you to watch you swerve.
I want to see it. See it.
I like it when.
Me too. You too, Carter.